Good afternoon, everyone. So today we will discuss about the demand. Okay. So first of all, tell me what is demand. Okay, you. Very good. You. Okay. So all we know that we all are going to market. Even I am also going to market. You all are also going to market. So what you are experiencing there, what you are observing there. Obviously, you are there in the market. Then if you are going there market, so you are asking something to the seller. Okay, for example, if you want to purchase 1 kg of potato, so how you will ask? Simply you will ask, uncle, give me 1 kg of potato, and after that when he will give you, you have to give him money. So in the market the things are there. Okay, what are the things you are experiencing? That is only the demand. If I will write on the board, you can clearly understand that what is the demand. Basically I am writing all that thing what you are experiencing. First, suppose if I talk about the demand, so in demand you are there consumer, then you are demanding commodity you are demanding, then it has some price also, then it should be one desire also, then market. Right. So these all things are you are experiencing in the market. So this is making one demand definition. You know that how? For example, what is demand? So demand is a desire of a consumer in the market when he is asking about the commodity. It should have some price, and one more thing, quantity. So demand is a desire of consumer which is asking in the market one commodity with price with fixed quantity. Because if you will ask to the seller like give me potato, but you are not saying how much quantity, it will not consider demand. When you will say how much, when there will be no fixed price, it will not consider as a demand. When there will be no goods, no commodity, it will not consider as a demand. So whenever you are asking the demand in the market, you should keep in your mind these things. So again I am saying demand is nothing, just the desire of consumer where he is asking some commodity at a fixed price. That quantity also, quantity should be there in the market. It is called demand. So what is demand? It is a desire of a consumer where he is asking a commodity is quantity at given price level in the market. This is basic, the demand which you are experiencing in the market whenever you are going. Everyone know the meaning of demand, but when it comes in subject, so if we will go through it with the books definition, it is difficult to understand, it is difficult to memorize. But if you will understand in a practical way by surrounding of yours, you can understand instead of memorizing it. So in economics basically the demand's meaning is this. This is the part of microeconomics. Okay, so we are discussing on the demand. So next is what? If I talk about the demand, so in demand also we have two type of demand. One is individual demand and second is market demand. One is individual demand and second is market demand. So if I talk about individual demand, so individual demand is a demand of one consumer. Individual demand is a demand of one consumer, and market demand is a demand of more than one consumer. More than one consumer. More than one consumer. More than one consumer. This is your individual demand and this is your market demand. In individual demand price, suppose that we have 10 to 20. Then demand, suppose 20 to 15. So this is the demand schedule of one consumer. This is called individual demand schedule. And here price quantity. Sorry, price 10 to 30. Price 10 to 30. Demand quantity when price increases demand you have 20 to 10. This is your consumer 1. Next consumer 30 to 25. Another consumer 40 to 20. Another consumer 50 to 20. So here in the schedule we are discussing like so many consumers are there. So this is called market demand schedule, because the tabular representation of the individual demand is called individual demand schedule, and the tabular representation of the market demand is called market demand schedule. So next is what? Next is demand curve. So demand curve also same as demand schedule. We have two types. One is individual demand curve, IDC, individual demand curve, and second market demand curve, MDC, market demand curve. So individual demand curve, that means graphical representation of one consumer or individual demand, you can see. Suppose price decreases, demand increases. This is your price, this is your quantity. So this is your individual demand curve. That means the graphical representation of the individual demand is called individual demand curve, and the graphical representation of the market demand is called market demand curve. So how we can show it? Like price, quantity. Price decreases, quantity increases. P0, Q1, suppose. Now price increases, quantity increases. P1, Q0. So the demand of many people, 1, 2, 3, the demand of many people, the demand of many means more than one people. When we will show it in the graphical form, it is called market demand curve. So this is about the demand. Then demand individual, demand market, individual demand schedule, market demand schedule, individual demand curve, market demand curve. Here any doubt? Because this is all about the demand. Any doubt you can ask. Okay, no doubt. So again I am repeating, what is demand? Demand is nothing, just an experience which you are experiencing in the market when you are going. Because demand is not a topic, not a thing for memorize it. It is just understanding. Like when you are going to the market, so you are playing role as a consumer, and there you will purchase one commodity, and the commodity should have price also, and it has some quantity also, and there should be desire also of a consumer. So it will be considered as the demand. So missing, if you will miss anything in these component, this demand will never known as demand basically. And the definition also, it is a desire of a consumer where he is asking a commodity's quantity at a given price level in the market is called demand. For example, demand of a cycle by yourself. So if you are demanding cycle, so cycle is commodity. You want to purchase cycle, this is desire. If you will go in the market, obviously cycle will available in the market, in the shop, so it is in the market. If you will ask, so you have to say how many cycle, one cycle, that is quantity, and if the producer, that means shopkeeper, will give you, so what you have to give them, what you have to pay, you have to pay money, that is price. So quantity, price, commodity, desire, producer, shopkeeper and market, these are the basic component of the market, of the demand. If this demand will be raised by more than one consumer, it is your market demand. If it is raised by one consumer, it is your individual demand. If it will be in tabular form, individual demand schedule. If it is in market form, tabular form, market demand, so demand is your market demand schedule. If it is in graphical form, individual demand curve. If market demand in graphical form, market demand curve. So this is about the demand. Now the next topic is law of demand. Next topic is law of demand. So before starting the topic, I would like to say, law means it is not a law like IPC and that constitutional law. No, it is a normal consumer law, means not like this. It is a normal behavior law, like how the consumer behave when the price change, how his demand will affect when the price change. So the law of demand is not a law like law in the constitution. It is a normal behavioral demand, behavior law of the consumer. So here definition, other things remain constant, other things remain constant if price increases, quantity of demand decreases. If price decreases, quantity of demand decreases. Quantity of demand decreases. In short, if I say price increases, quantity of demand decreases. Price decreases, quantity of demand increases. That means here we are saying like the demand relation between price and the quantity of demand is negative. That means if one will increase, other will decrease. If one will decrease, other will increase. But here the important thing, other things remain constant. So what are these other things? So remember that when the price change, other things will constant. Okay, and when other things change, price remain constant. So here the one question raising, like demand will affect by the two things, one by the price and one by the other things. So let's start. First of all, I would like to present this in the graphical form. So suppose that this is your normal condition, here price and here quantity. If your price increases, then your demand decreases. This is called your decreasing, means decreasing of quantity because increasing in price. Your quantity means your price increasing, and because of this reason quantity decreasing. Your price increasing and because of this your quantity decreasing. If suppose this is normal condition, price and quantity. This is normal condition. If your price decreases, so you are observing your demand increases. Your price decreases, demand, quantity of demand increases. Suppose that here price decreases, then quantity of demand increases. Okay. So this is the graphical representation of the two conditions that we are observing in the law of demand. Like price increases, law of demand say that quantity should be decreased. Price decreases, law of demand says quantity of demand should be increasing. So next topic is what? Next topic is how the demand will affected by the change in change in price and the change in other things. How the demand will affect by the change in price and the change in other things. Very good. So demand affected due to change in price and change in other things. Change in price and change in other things. So if demand affected due to change in price, so this will consider law of demand. This will consider as law of demand. If the change, and it is called change in quantity of demand. Change in quantity of demand. And if the demand affected due to the change in other things, so this will not consider in the law of demand, but this will known as change in demand. Because there are two concepts basically. One is change in quantity of demand, that related to law of demand because here the price change. Another is change in demand, not quantity of demand, in only demand. So this related to change in other things. In that case, change in quantity, price change, other things remain constant. In that case, when we will study change in the other things, so it will known as change in demand. Because if demand changing because of changing other things, it is known as change in demand. But quantity of demand changing because of change in price. So here other things remain constant, here price remain constant. So this topic we will continue in the next class because this is only for today. So any doubt here? So I will clear it. Any doubt? No? Okay, very good. So without delay, I would like to just clear revision for this topic. So first we will discuss about the demand. In demand we discuss like some component, like if demand is going on, so there should be one consumer, one commodity, one price, desire of the consumer should be there, market and the quantity of the product. So demand is a desire of consumer where he is asking a commodity's quantity at a given price level in the market. There are two types of demand. We discussed individual demand and market demand. Individual, that means demand of one consumer. For example, you, Ansu. Demand, if you will demand only you, so it will called individual demand. But suppose that Ansu, Aman, Ranjit, Neha, Kirti will demand, so they are more than one consumer. So this demand is known as market demand. Okay. So if I talk about the tabular representation, so if one consumer will be represented in a tabular form, it is called individual demand schedule. If more than consumer are coming in a table, it is known as market demand schedule. Individual demand curve, that means graphical representation of the individual demand is called individual demand curve. And market demand curve, that means graphical representation of market demand is called market demand curve. Then after we discuss about the law of demand. In law of demand we discuss like other things remain constant. When the price increases, the quantity of demand decreases. When price decreases, the quantity of demand increases. Keep in your mind the quantity of demand, because the quantity of demand will make another topic here. And this is the graphical representation that we discuss. Here price increases, quantity of demand decreases. Here price decreases, quantity of demand increases. It is a common human behavior, consumer behavior. So demand affected due to the next topic. This topic I will continue in the next class. This is just an introduction of your next class topic. Demand affected due to change in price and change in other things. Here also other things that we will discuss in the next class. So how the change in price will affect the demand? So this will be considered as a law of demand, and it will be known as a change in quantity of a demand. And if I talk about the change in demand due to other things, change in demand due to other things, so this will not consider in law of demand. This will known as a change in demand only, because change in demand is different from the change in quantity of demand. So thank you so much for this class. In next day we will discuss another topic.